Hi, welcome to my video. So in this video, I'm going to be addressing some things here. So I'm not going to be talking about what distributions I use in the future, but this video will clarify that whatever system I'm using is pretty much, we all know, people that follow me on this channel or just know me in general. I'm an Arch Linux guy. Okay, I like Arch Linux system. I only use Arch Linux for the most part. I left Windows last year. I mean, I always use Linux, but I mean, like, I always also use Windows because I still can say till today is the best for PC gaming, as it has a lot of support for these anti-cheat MMO games that have anti-cheat. It works on Windows. As to Linux, there's some problems with it. And main reason why I was using Windows was because I was playing Lost Ark, and that still does not run on Linux. So I know a lot of people think Lost Ark's a bad game. It's actually a really fun game. It's just, yeah, it's very pay to win. But if you want to play just a really fun ARPG MMO game, it actually is pretty fun. I like Lost Ark for the gameplay. It's a really good game. But to be competitive and to be like the best of the best, I wouldn't recommend Lost Ark because it'll be pretty expensive to play that way. But just to play for fun, like, just play with friends, play for fun, do a few dungeons, just play it. Then the game is great as a whole. But I'm more of a Final Fantasy 14 guy, so I play Final Fantasy 14 because this game is more of a fair game. You just play, you pay a monthly sub, and the game is great. You know what I mean? I like the Final Fantasy 14 model. It's probably the best model. It's like World of Warcraft, same idea, and it works really well. Anyways, besides games, yes, I'm an Arch Linux user. People can be like, I thought you were using Gentoo. Well, the thing about Gentoo, I had on my system, I was actually really thinking of using it as my main system, but I still left Arch Linux because I was thinking I might go back to Arch Linux because Arch Linux is a really good system. I like Arch Linux, and there's no other system that I consider better than Arch Linux. And it's a very personal choice. I'm not saying it's the best system in the world, but for me personally, I like it the best. It's a personal choice. That's it. To me, Linux is Linux. A GNU Linux system is a GNU Linux system. Doesn't matter what distribution you're using. It still comes down to that you're using the Linux kernel and you're using the GNU user interface, userland, the Unix like userland of the system. What GNU is basically your command line shell. Okay, you know the shell in Unix. Well, that's basically what GNU is, but it's just not Unix. But it's very the same thing. It's like a clone of Unix because it works very similar to any other Unix system. You can use BSD, you can use, Solaris, and it all works the same for the most part. Like the Unix command line is all pretty much the same. And Linux is very like GNU is very much similar to that in that regards. So, yeah, I'm not gonna like talk about what system I use in the future. I will. I do have a second hard drive. So what I do with these computers that I have, I always have a second hard drive. The second hard drive is basically testing out other Linux distributions. And sometimes what I do is I test it out for a few months while it's in development, just because I like to see the development of some distributions I like Fedora. I like to test out their release on actual hardware. I can do it in VM, but I like to test it also on actual hardware just to see how it works with my system. Also, I want to test out Fedora 40. I want to test out, or at least try out, Ubuntu, their LTS one's coming out this month, or not this month, in April. The 24.04 release. I want to see how that is. Just I want to see what they done in their LTS release. but I'm not really much of a GNOME fan anymore. If I'm going to test out Fedora 40, it will be the KDE edition. So, um, so with Gentoo, why did I took it off my system and why I stopped using it? I'll tell you one thing: Gentoo is a really good system. It's very stable. It's solid. You know what I mean? But when it comes to the package management, even though if you know it quite down to the T, you know it really well, I just think it's repetitive. I I try to deal with it. I know how to use it. My problem with it is that it's I don't know. I feel like it's in a debugging mode all the time. You always have to configure it. You always have to add use flags. You always got to do this, that. As I guess I got spoiled with a lot of distributions with app or apt-get, what do you call it? Zupper and DNF, Pac-Man for one thing. Pac-Man is really great. You know what I mean? Even with FreeBSD and a lot of BSD systems, they have binary package managers. Like FreeBSD has package ng, NetBSD has package source. Like you get spoiled with these binary source package managers, and it's really, really good, I find. Um, the thing about they compare Gentoo to FreeBSD, but I don't see much of FreeBSD into Gentoo. I can see they got some ideas from FreeBSD, but it's definitely not a similar system to FreeBSD. The FreeBSD port systems are really great because I like how ports is separated from their binary source, and you know, you can use either one of them. Most people use the binary source package ng, but you can also use um, ports if you want to have a certain program and just and add features that you need and take out features that you don't need. And that's one thing I like about ports is that when you're compiling the source, it like popped up this nice incursive menu, and it lets you choose what you want with that particular program and the things that you don't want with that particular program, instead of like adding all these use flags that you want and don't want with on Gentoo. I think that's more tedious and annoying. And I like this incursive menu where you can just select what you need and what you don't need, and then you just compile the source, like that source of that program that you want. I think ports does it so much better than Gentoo. And I think that the source part of FreeBSD is done a lot better than Gentoo. I think Gentoo got a lot of work to do. I think what Gentoo really needs is a really good binary source package manager, which you can install the whole system just like how you would do with Pac-Man on Arch Linux. But then it would probably just defeat the purpose of being Gentoo, right? Because Gentoo is a source-based system and it's only source-based. So, I mean, it's fine for that reason, but they are kind of like going with the whole binary source with Gentoo. I can see that that's what they're doing right now with the system, more and more and more and more and more, and eventually, I think that I think it'd be kind of great for Gentoo in a way. It's like to actually have a good binary source package manager. I think it'd be good for Gentoo. Personally, a lot of the old school hardcore Gentoo users are probably like, no man, it's just source based. That's what Gentoo is all about. Yeah, sure. But anyways, as far as that goes, I use Arch Linux, and that's it. And it's not really cool to use a system that makes things complicated. Like Gentoo is not hard to use. I just think it's very tedious and annoying. That's for me. Like I can use Gentoo easily. It's not a hard system to know, especially any user, even new Linux users can use Gentoo. It's not hard. You read the handbook, you follow things. If you can learn things, then you can learn Gentoo easily. Anything is easy to be learned if you actually study it if you're into it. If you're into something, you're going to study it, you're going to read it, you're going to learn. If you just expect things to just be handed to you all the time, then you'll never learn. And that's what the problem is with a lot of people. They come in like Linux and think, oh, Linux is hard, it's complicated. No, it's not. It's just learn the system. It's not Windows, it's not Mac OS. Go into those systems too, you gotta learn how to use it. And you have been, because you've been using it since you were a kid. Like with Windows and MS-DOS, you learn it in school, how to use DOS and how to, how to format floppies and how to copy files to floppies and how to get into the floppy drive and all that. You learn that in school, and you get taught by how to learn how to use the system, and eventually, using Windows all your childhood and all your adult life, you know Windows because you use it all the time. It's just like using Linux. If you use Linux all the time, you're going to know Linux really well. You're going to know how to fix things. When things break in Linux, you're going to know exactly how to troubleshoot things really easily. It's with any system, you know how to fix good. Like even Mac OS, the same idea. BSD is the same idea. All of it, if you know the system, if you use it a lot, you're going to understand it really well. Now, Gentoo is not hard. Arch Linux is not hard. They are a bit more to learn than other distributions like Ubuntu and Fedora. But they all can be very technical if you want it to be very technical with it. Okay? Because after all, it is all GNU Linux. And you can get pretty advanced with any distribution, because distribution is just, a system setup for me. And just all of them have their own way of installing packages. But at the end of the day, you're using the same open source software within all these distributions. It's just different package managers and how it updates the system. But either way, it's all GNU Linux, okay? It's just a lot of different distributions, which makes it confusing for a lot of people, especially coming from Windows or Mac OS, because they only got one distribution. So like you go into Linux, it's like, what distribution I should use? Was great. I always recommend Arch Linux because I think Arch Linux is great. It's not hard, and it has a lot of software. The reason why I use Arch Linux is because I really love Pacman. I think it's a really good package manager. Also, one thing I like about Arch Linux, all the programs that I use on my system, which are pretty much all open source software, mainly all open source software, and Pacman has pretty much everything. Like I think maybe it's just one or two programs that I get from AUR, which is OpenRGB. Maybe that is in Pacman. I'm not sure. I have to see if it is. Probably not. Oh, it is. So I don't even need that with AUR. I did install it. So what program did I probably, it is probably Etcher and 2-on Music Box audio player, which is you can get it from the AUR, or you can get it from Flatpak. I don't use Flatpak though. But other than that, everything else I got from Pacman. All these programs, Discord, Steam, Steam you gotta add multi-lib, but pretty much everything else that I get from Arch Linux is all from Pacman, and I'm not limited to software. Like a lot of distributions I'll use, like Fedora for one thing, OpenSUSE and all that. Like their package managers don't have everything I throw at it. Like all the software that I use doesn't have everything in there. As to Arch, it has everything on the system. Gentoo is pretty good for the most part, but they don't have Steam. You have to use overlays or Flatpak. Void Linux is really annoying because I think it's not a bad system, Void Linux, but I try to get OBS, doesn't have it. Try to get Discord, doesn't have it. Try to get Steam, doesn't have it. Even if you add the non-free and you add multi-lib packages with XBPS, it's still you have to get things by source. So I don't know. That's why I use Arch Linux, because Arch Linux just has everything for me, and I do like the package manager. And AUR, I don't use it that often. I only use it if I need to use it. But for the most part, I use Pacman. I think Pacman is the safer way to use Arch Linux. AUR, you gotta be very careful with what you're doing on that. But for the most part, it's good. Okay, they're just know what you're doing. Pretty much is what I say. When you're gonna use AUR, like know what you're installing from there. But with Pacman, things are all safe because all the packages are signed and they're good to be used. It's maintained properly. But AUR, it's a lot of stuff from GitHub, and you gotta be careful with that. Just make sure to read the source code. If you're really like skeptical, just don't install anything on your system. Anyways, I don't use much programs from AUR, but if you are using it a lot, just be aware of things, right? Anyways, this video is getting quite long, and I have to go to work tonight. But yeah, so I know this is just a rant, but I know people like they're happy that they'll sub my channel because he's a gentle user, or they'll sub my channel like he's an Arch Linux user. You know what? I'm a GNU Linux user. Okay, I like them all. I like systems. I like to play around with Linux. I like to play around with Linux in general. So if you're subbing my channel just because I use the same system as you, then I don't know. I don't fanboy a system. Okay, because to me the way I look at it, it's all GNU Linux. Okay, that's what I love about all these distributions, because it's GNU Linux. That's what I like about the system in general. I like the crux of the system, GNU Linux. Okay, and it's just a matter of personal taste and flavor of a system. That's all it is. And they're all good systems. Gentoo is good, Arch Linux is good, Ubuntu is good, Fedora is good, OpenSUSE is good, Pop OS is good. Any system, man, Void Linux, whatever works good for you, use it and be happy with it. If you like Mac OS, use it. If you like Windows, use it. If you have the tools and the software and the things that you love to use your computer, because when it comes down to it, an operative is to make you enjoy your computer as a whole, your hardware, your computer, the thing that you built or the thing you bought. You know what I mean? Or like something you built, or you probably bought a pre-built system. Okay, and that's the whole idea. You want to use that hardware, you want to use the software and tools on your computer, and you want to just enjoy your computer and have fun with it. And so the way I always say, use whatever operating system that works good for your computer and for the tools and things you love to do with computers. That's where it comes down to, is just enjoying your system. You know what I mean? That's it. There's no better system than the other. I like Arch Linux because it works for me, because it has all the software I love to use. I like Arch Linux because it's fast, it's stable, it just works good. I've been using it since 2008, and I'm still using it till this day. Even though I use other operating systems like Windows and Mac OS, I always use Arch Linux. Arch Linux is always on a computer somewhere in my place, and I'm always playing around with Arch Linux. I never stop using Arch Linux. I've been using it for many years, and if you know me, I'm a big fan of Arch Linux. I think it's a great system. Do I recommend it for everybody? Sure. If you like a system that's has a lot of good software and a very good package manager, and it's roll and release, it's really stable. It's a really good system. I think it works really well, especially for Steam gaming, like PC gaming, Steam gaming. Arch Linux, I would say top tier system for Steam gaming. That's why Steam OS, their Steam decks, use Arch Linux as their base, because Arch Linux is very good for gaming. And also, but you can use any other Linux distribution. It's good for gaming as well with Steam. It's really, like I said, it comes down to personal preference. But at the end of the day, it's all good. I like GNU Linux. Anyways, that's my video. So if you see me on a different system, it's because I'm playing around with it, testing it out. But I am an Arch Linux guy, always will be. But it doesn't make me better than you or better than someone that uses Ubuntu. I don't really care what people use for their system. I want people to just enjoy their system and not treat a distribution like a religion or a cult. You know what I mean? It's because it shouldn't be treated like that. It's a system, and if you love the system you're using and you're enjoying it with your computer, and you're enjoying your computer with that system, then that is awesome. Because that's what computers is all about. It's just to have fun and to enjoy it and to do the things you love to do with computers. That's basically what a hobbyist is. I'm a person that loves to play around with a lot of different operating systems. This has been my long hobby since the late 90s, since I was a teenager. Like, I've been always liking playing around with unique operating systems. I try, you know, OpenStep. I try, you know, all these systems back in the day, like QNX, BEOS, you know, like you name it, I tried it. Amiga OS, you know, Risk OS. I tried them all. Plan 9, to name a few really strange operating systems. But I tried them all, you know, and I'm just a very hobbyist. I like Unix systems. I like GNU Linux systems. I like BSD systems. And I like, you know, Solaris systems. I just like a lot of different types of systems. And I'm quite interested with KA or KOS or Chaos. Seems like a pretty interesting system. They're talking about probably including or making a system with the Loomis kernel. What is the Loomis kernel? Well, that'll be in another video. Someday I will talk about the Loomis kernel and systems like Open Indiana and a little history of Sun Microsystem and what happened to them with Open Solaris or Solaris, Open Solaris. Anyways, how are you going, guys? Cheers.